On a significant day for international trade relations, top Canadian ministers articulated a firm stance in response to President Donald Trump's announcement regarding potential tariffs. During a press briefing, Canadian officials conveyed that the nation is prepared to retaliate if the U.S. follows through on its threat of imposing a hefty 25% tariff on Canadian and Mexican goods, set to take effect on February 1st. President Trump has made headlines with his ongoing threats to implement sweeping tariffs on not just Canada and Mexico, but on various other trading partners as well. His approach reflects a broader strategy aimed at reshaping the U.S. trade landscape, emphasizing a protectionist agenda that he believes will benefit American workers and industries. In remarks made late Monday night from the Oval Office, Trump reiterated his intentions. "We're thinking in terms of 25% on Mexico and Canada," he stated, indicating a firm timeline that aligns with the beginning of February. However, the actual implementation of these tariffs remains uncertain. Trump has signed an executive order that mandates a coordinated report from the Secretary of Commerce, with a deadline set for April. This report is expected to delve into the specifics of trade practices and the justification for the proposed tariffs, laying the groundwork for potential policy changes that could have far-reaching implications. In his inaugural address, Trump made it clear that tariffs would be an integral part of his economic strategy, asserting that foreign countries would bear the burden of these trade penalties. However, it's important to note that the reality of tariffs is often more complex. While the intent is to impose costs on foreign exporters, those taxes are typically absorbed by domestic importers and frequently passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices. This chain reaction raises questions about the actual beneficiaries of such policies and whether they truly serve the interests of American workers. In response to these developments, Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly emphasized that Canada is not standing idly by. She stated that Canadian officials are actively engaged in efforts to prevent the imposition of tariffs and are simultaneously preparing for potential retaliatory measures. This dual approach reflects a commitment to protecting Canadian interests while navigating the turbulent waters of international trade relations. The potential for retaliatory actions underscores the interconnectedness of global trade. Both Canada and the United States share complex economic ties that go beyond mere transactions. They encompass cultural exchanges, shared resources, and intertwined markets. Any tariffs imposed by the U.S. would not only affect Canadian exports, but could also have significant repercussions for American consumers and businesses. On Monday, top Canadian officials expressed their readiness to respond decisively in light of President Donald Trump's announcement regarding potential tariffs on Canada and Mexico. The president hinted at imposing a substantial 25% tariff on these neighboring countries, potentially taking effect on February 1st. This development has raised concerns in Canada, prompting its leaders to prepare for possible economic retaliation. Trump's administration has long threatened to implement sweeping tariffs, not only on Canada and Mexico, but also on various other trading partners. Such tariffs could significantly impact the intricate trade relationships that have been established over decades. In a statement made late Monday night in the Oval Office, Trump confirmed his intentions, stating, "We're thinking in terms of 25% on Mexico and Canada. I think February 1st. This timeline, however, remains somewhat uncertain as the administration navigates the complexities of international trade law and domestic economic considerations. The potential imposition of these tariffs has drawn mixed reactions. While some within the Trump administration view this as a necessary step to protect American industries and jobs, critics argue that such measures could lead to increased prices for consumers and strain international relations. The president signed an executive order that calls for a comprehensive report, which is to be coordinated by the Secretary of Commerce and delivered by April. This report aims to assess the economic implications of the proposed tariffs and explore alternatives to enhance U.S. trade policy. In his inaugural address, Trump made it clear that tariffs were part of his broader strategy to reshape American trade dynamics. He asserted that foreign countries would bear the burden of these trade penalties, even though it is often domestic importers who ultimately pay these taxes. This added financial burden tends to trickle down to consumers, potentially leading to higher prices for goods and services across the board. Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly responded to the president's remarks with caution and determination. She emphasized that Canada would continue to seek ways to prevent the implementation of these tariffs while simultaneously preparing for the possibility of retaliation. This dual approach reflects the seriousness with which Canada views the potential economic ramifications of Trump's proposed measures. The Canadian government's readiness to retaliate highlights the complexities of international trade and diplomacy. If the U.S. were to impose these tariffs, Canada would likely respond with its own set of countermeasures aimed at protecting its economy. Such retaliatory actions could escalate into a full-blown trade war, which would have significant consequences not only for the two nations involved, but also for other countries in the global economy. The relationship between Canada and the United States has historically been characterized by strong economic ties and cooperation. Both countries share a vast border and are each other's largest trading partners. In 2019, for instance, trade between the two nations exceeded $700 billion, illustrating the depth of their economic interdependence. However, the potential for tariffs introduces a layer of uncertainty that could disrupt this long-standing partnership. Moreover, the implications of such tariffs extend beyond immediate economic impacts. They could also influence political dynamics within both countries. In Canada, the government would face pressure from various sectors, including manufacturing, agriculture, and retail, to respond effectively to protect Canadian interests. Similarly, in the U.S., the imposition of tariffs could provoke backlash from industries reliant on imports, leading to calls for reassessment of trade strategies. As the situation unfolds, the Canadian government is likely to engage in discussions with various stakeholders, including business leaders and trade unions, to formulate a comprehensive response strategy. This may involve not only retaliatory tariffs, but also diplomatic efforts to engage with U.S. lawmakers and officials to advocate for a more collaborative approach to trade. In conclusion, the possibility of a 25% tariff on Canadian goods poses a significant challenge for Canada, requiring a multifaceted response that balances the need for economic protection with the desire to maintain a cooperative relationship with the United States. As the deadline approaches, both nations will need to navigate the complexities of trade negotiations carefully to avoid a situation that could lead to detrimental consequences for both economies. The stakes are high, and the outcome will likely shape the future of Canada-US relations in profound ways.